Hello, and welcome back to episode 4 of What the Fundraising. I'm your host, Mallory Erickson, and this podcast is for impact leaders and change makers who are looking to ultimately show up to their work differently. Today, I'm interviewing Jennifer Pastiloff. She's a writer, coach, and just all-around amazing human being. You might know her as the author of On Being Human or her On Being Human retreats, where she fuses together yoga and writing. She also has amazing individual coaching programs and group coaching on shame loss. And today we're going to be talking about all of it. We're going to go really deep into shame and scarcity, our own experiences with fundraising, and what are some of the tools that we use with ourselves and with our clients to help us move through things when they get hard and complicated. You're going to walk away with so many different tools and tricks, and ultimately an understanding that we all deal with that inner a-hole, as Jen calls it, inside our head. And so we all need strategies to deal with, cope with, manage, move through these different things. So I don't want to waste any time because I don't think you're here to listen to me. So let's dive in. I'm so excited to introduce you to one of my favorite humans. All right, welcome everyone. I am so thrilled to be joined today by Jennifer Pastiloff. I am trying very hard not to completely fangirl out, but she...
Hey, are you going to show video at this too?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so they're going to get to see us, and I'm just so excited to be talking to you today. Your book on being human was a real life changer for me, and something I recommend to fundraisers constantly. So I'm so honored that you're taking this time today.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here and to be doing this. Thank you. Even though I just burned my tongue off on my third cup of coffee, I will survive.
Oh no!
I will survive.
Oh, well, do what you need to do. I was joking with someone.
There's nothing to do. That's the terrible thing about like biting your tongue or burning it. There's just
I
nothing
know.
to do.
You just wait for it to heal. Well, if you need some breaks, just let me know.
All right. Thank you.
So, Jen, I feel like I know you, from following you and reading your books, but do you want to just give everyone a little, what brings you to this moment? Yeah.
Sure. So, gosh, bios are always so awkward. Even before we started, I was like, are you going to read my bio? It's so old and weird. And then I forget to tell people, so they read this, whatever. But let's see. My name is Jen Pastiloff, and I am a mom. My son just turned 5. I'm known for my listening, even though I'm deaf without my hearing aids. So I'm not capital D deaf. I wasn't born deaf. It just progressively got worse, and along with my tinnitus. So now I can't hear without them. I read lips. So as you can imagine, the pandemic masks were real. And I won't apologize for cursing. You could beep it out if you need to. But I read lips, and technology has been a bit easier for me during the pandemic, in fact, because it streams right into my hearing aid. So yay for surprises, right? Letting yourself be surprised. I'm a writer. There, I just said it. And I work a lot with people, and I'm a coach. I work a lot with people to quiet their inner a-hole and let go of BS stories. And one of mine was for a long time, I'm not a real writer. So it was nice that I was able to just say, I'm a writer. I was a writer in college, and then I got sidetracked and took a semester off before my senior year, which turned into forever. And I got a summer job at a Hollywood cafe that turned into 14 years. And I was just, really stuck. I was a poster child for misery and someone who hated their life and complained all the time. And I found my way out through teaching yoga. And then I came back to my writing, and I married the two, combined with my, wacky personality and sense of humor and listening skills. And I kind of created this thing that I do all around the world, these On Being Human workshops. And then I wrote the book. And I'm a coach too. I coach people to allow for all the humanness. I think someone recently asked me, what is my superpower? She's like, what's your shtick or your thing? And I think that's it, really allowing for it all. So, that's me, I'm here sharing my journey, and I decided at some point I wouldn't hide any longer because of shame. So it's not that I tell everyone everything, not at all, but I don't hide because of shame. So whatever it is, I'm transparent and with a sense of humor.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And will you, like, when you say inner a-hole, right? You talk about that a lot. Like, what is that for folks who are like, how do I quiet that thing?
Inner is that voice that said, you're not a real writer. The inner a-hole is a voice that tells us we're not enough. It's scarcity mindset, and what I used to think was that, like years ago, I was like, I'm going to kill it. And I realized through living, not at all. But what I could do is quiet it, because I would think I'd killed it and then I'd wake up and it was in bed with me again. Right. And I'm like, I kicked you out of bed and here you are again. So I thought, okay, I'll quiet it. And then a more recent sort of epiphany that I'll be going in my next book and that I'm doing with my clients is offer it compassion. And it's like, I see you, I hear you, I get you, and I don't need you anymore. So I'm not denying it. I'm not being mean to it, but I'm just like, I don't need you anymore. The inner is the voice that tells us we're not enough, or we should stay small, or don't open your mouth, or what will they think? It's perhaps the voice of an outer a-hole that we adopted at some point and made our own, right? So everyone has one, I believe. I mean, if they don't, I'd love to have dinner with them. So reach out to me, jenniferpastiloff.com. And, so I've gone through years of my life where it ran the show, and it's a day by day practice, quieting it and not letting it be the boss of us.
I love that. And I say something similar to my clients all the time. I'm like, just pass the mic. Like, like who gave that voice the microphone? You're just like, just pass the mic. Because I agree. I love that you said it like that, because I think one of the things when people try to, whatever they call it, like the gremlin or the self-critic, and they're like, I'm going to get rid of it. And then when they don't, they feel like it's just another thing that they failed about. And the inner a-hole is a real jerk about the fact that you haven't been able to get rid of him too, right? And so just being like, look, you're in relationship with this thing. Sometimes it's going to be louder. Sometimes it's going to be quieter. When it's loud, when it got the microphone somehow, how do you just get it to say, like, I see you. You're there to protect. You think you're trying to protect me.
You think. That's the key word. You think.
Yeah. You think
and I don't need you anymore.
Exactly.
And another thing I've been working on lately with myself and my coaching clients is finding the ridiculousness of it. So a lot of times, I'll go, just say that out loud. Like how, recently I had a friend die by suicide, and it really threw me and rattled me, as it, of course, would. And I started to move too quickly. I dropped my phone a couple of times. All these things essentially that cost me money and frustration and time. And a very quick place I can go to is, see, nothing ever works out for me. See? And, there couldn't be anything farther from the truth. So just say that out loud and be with the ridiculousness of it. And I find that when we're able to bring levity and humor into things, it is so helpful. Perhaps the most helpful thing.
I totally
it's so
agree.
easy to take ourselves so seriously.
Yeah. And I find like my inner a-hole is like, it's all black and white, right? It's like, this thing is definitely the worst thing you could possibly do. And it's like, life exists so much in the gray, right? And so it's like, I say to myself all the time, like, one of the ways it's that voice is like, there's no space for anything else.
That's such a good point. I'm going to write that down. That is a really beautiful point. And space is where creativity lives. We need space. And you're right. My husband's very black and white. It drives me bananas. He's so smart, way smarter than me. Like, babe, can you explain what's happening in the middle of the East, the Middle East, but like when it just very black and white with things. And it just, that is not the way anything is really. I mean, maybe there are some things in life, but as human beings, we're nuanced.
Totally. And there's perspective and there's experience, and all those things add up like, I agree. It's like, there's very rarely like such black and white, right and wrong, right? It's like we determine right based on our lived experience, where we come from, how we were raised, our culture. And it's really easy to say like, this is right and that is wrong, but things are complicated. And I agree. I think that like the beauty of the world is in the gray.
Yeah, me too.
So let's talk a little bit about like one of the things I love so many of the things that you talk about and write about, but when I was reading on being human, the shame, like the theme of shame, and, you talk about shame loss a lot. And that's one of your, workshop series. Do you remember like, what was the first time you ever used the term shame loss?
Oh, I know exactly when. It was only in the fall, and it wasn't even mine. One of my best friends, Chris Avila Hubschman, in New Jersey, we went to NYU together. But I talk about shame all the time and losing shame. And she's one of these people who she always has ideas. It's fascinating. And I'm like, wow, how do you come up with that stuff? Anyway, so we were on the phone, and I was not doing well. I was very depressed. My whole income went with COVID because everything, all my money was earned from in-person events. And, to segue into fundraising, that's one of the things I did was I used my platform, my Instagram, my social media to raise a lot of money to feed people and give them grocery cards. And then at some point I was like, okay, but what about my own family and my rent? Oh God. And so I had a couple of friends who sat me down who were like, we're going to help you figure this out, because I had a blind spot. I couldn't see any possibility, right? Black and white. And my friend Chris said, what about shame loss? Like instead of weight loss? And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Like, of course that's taken. And I'm sure. And I looked, and I couldn't believe it. And I bought it right away on GoDaddy. And I was like, Chris, she goes, Jen, maybe I came up with the name, but this is what you've been doing. And I was like, all right, man, this is brilliant. And I'm so grateful to her for that clever name, but it really is, so much of my life has been spent feeling shame. And, in the last many years, I talk about it a lot, and I talk about losing it and putting it down. And so shame loss is a new thing. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see all these people coming together with this common intention, which is to put down shame, at least for today. At least for today.
And people come and like they're dealing with shame in so many different aspects
of
their
life.
Life.
You name it. And for many of us, it seems like, what? Like, for example, I used to have so much shame about my hearing loss. And I remember leading a private retreat or something, and this woman was just so confused by that. Why would you have shame by that? And I said, first of all, shame is not logical. And so what we're feeling shame over in our body, someone else might not understand. And then there's like, really big things, of course, like sexual assault, things that were not their fault, but it runs the gamut.
Yeah. What happens when, I think about shame with fundraising, right? So a lot of fundraisers feel a lot of shame when they're fundraising, which I also agree. Like, what is the logic there, right? When you just said that, I'm like, yeah, like, what is the logic there? Why do fundraisers feel shame in fundraising? And then I think about like, okay, what's a common experience for not just a fundraiser, but like a public kind of display of the shame around fundraising? And I think about like the ways that canvassers, right, are standing on a street corner.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Right. And like we cross the street ahead of, or we like pretend like we're on a phone call, or we don't make eye contact.
Yeah, that's what I do. I just said it. I mean, very once in a while I won't, but it's like, wow.
And we do that. And we do that probably actually because of our own shame in the moment, that like, we don't want to like give, or we don't want to have that conversation. And maybe we even feel like, I do it too, right? I'm like, okay, why do I do that? Is it because I feel ashamed that I'm not going to give to them right then? Maybe. But what if I just said
no more? I mean, for me, wow, for me, it's just like, because most of the time it's like in front of Trader Joe's or wherever. Most of the time it's like, I don't, I was going to say I don't have the time, and that's BS. I'm not willing to make the time right now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to. And the easier way is to lie and pretend I'm on the phone than be honest, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what's that? Like, why is that?
Wow. Thanks a lot, Mallory.
I mean, this is what I'm wondering.
I think, okay, a couple things are coming to me. One of them is we think it'll be a softer land. It won't hurt their feelings.
Mm.
You know, it's kinder. It's kinder. Yeah, I'm on the phone talking to my mom. My mom's in Texas and she's sick. Sorry. Then just saying, I'm not interested. I'm not willing to make the time to hear what you're canvassing. And the other one is people pleasing, but that's tricky because it's like, I don't know, like maybe people pleasing, but I really do think we think it's going to be less hurtful somehow to them.
Yeah, I agree. I've been thinking about this and I'm like, okay, but what would the impact be if we just said something like, that's not where my money goes, but thank you so much for what you're doing.
I do that quite often, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think some of it, I mean, you're bringing up some really interesting things that I actually haven't given much conscious thought to. I do a lot of time just say, I donate to here and, and I listen and everything. But I think some of it too is not trusting, is a fear of like, oh, these are scammers. Oh my God, these like what?
Yeah.
There's a lot of mistrust.
Yeah. 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 Or even maybe mistrust on like the time it would take to listen to them, right? Like sometimes they're like, do you have a minute? And it's like, I know this is a 30-minute thing and it's not just about a minute. Yeah. But I think about like, okay, so like, how does that then lead to this sort of like overarching shame that we feel in this like asking and saying no? We're like, I feel like there is shame in saying no sometimes, and there is shame in asking. And so then fundraising is this like,
you're so right. The shame in saying no too. It's like, I'm a bad person and I should be doing this. And you're right. And it's funny because when you said the shame around fundraising, because I wasn't thinking about in person, I was thinking online and I was thinking the way I do it. And, I know you're going to talk with Simone Gordon, the Black Fairy Godmother, but I've got this fairly big platform, not huge by any stretch of the imagination, but 90,000 people on Instagram who pay attention to what I say for whatever kooky reason. And a lot of times what I'll do is, I'll either amplify one of Simone's posts, or during the pandemic, I was like, all right, how my whole thing started with the raising money was I just did a post back in March 2020 saying, do you have enough food to eat? And it wasn't because I thought I'm going to be able to like buy everyone groceries. It's because I knew this community I've built and that I am part of, they would step in and start taking, and it's exactly what happened. Then I realized, oh, I'm the hub. So people started sending me money to send out, and then the whole GoFundMe started. But point being, I, was amplifying the needs of someone else. And then the people would either send money directly to them or to me, and I would give them a whatever, cash or buy them groceries or Amazon wish list. And so there wasn't so much shame in me because I wasn't asking for myself, but there is shame in like, oh, I can't keep asking. People are going to get annoyed. People are going to get irritated. What's it called? Donor burnout or, and that's fair, right? If you ask every single day, eventually people are going to be like, stop asking. But I hadn't thought about that really, the shame in that.
Well, and like, what's interesting about what you're saying is like, there's this piece, like your frame of reference, right? Was like, okay, I'm going to like put this call out to this community and people are going to step up. But did you ever say, I have, 40,000 followers or 50,000 followers and only 200 of them have given? And like, because I think that's what fundraisers do, right? They're like, oh my gosh, that means that, 39,000.
Never. Yeah. And I will never. No. And also I have people who follow me who are multimillionaires and people who follow me who live in their car, and that, because the truth is, there's so many ways to be of service. You, especially now with social media, you could be of service by amplifying the post, by sharing it, by clicking like, by telling someone about it, by, whatever it is. And maybe you share it and the next person donates. There's so many ways to keep it going. But no, it's not about like come on now, only 10 of you have donated. I mean, that's not my way. It just, and it won't be.
Yeah, no. And I totally agree. And I'm thinking even like your mindset is just so much more abundant than what I see a lot of the time with fundraisers, right? Where not even that they're nagging the person to give, like that they're like, where are the rest of you? But they're feeling like, oh, nobody was interested in my post, like because only that percentage of the people who followed me were invested. And what I loved about watching you during COVID do that thing is like, it was just never about what was happening beyond how you were showing up. You just kept showing up and you're like, now I'm going to bring this person on to talk about this. Now I'm going to bring this person on. And I didn't see any type of where I feel like nonprofits can get really like obsessed with like, what did everyone think about that thing that we did or the way that we said that thing,
Well, thank God. I mean, first of all, I wasn't a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And thank God. I mean, I've been told, one of my coaching clients, she's like, Jen, I wish I could be more like you and just leap. I think so much first. You just leap. And I thought, it's a blessing and a curse. And I love it about myself. It's also sometimes gets me in trouble. But yeah, I just was like, ah. And I had a partner, one of my followers who became a friend, Dana Mondello, and all these volunteers. But there was none of that because it was just like, first of all, we didn't know how long it was going to go on. It was like, let's just get some people some groceries. And then, 150, however much we raised, $1,000. But it's interesting too, the abundance thing. My friend Donovan Taylor Hall, this really amazing teacher I've been posting about, who was just on the Today Show. I'm like, we're going to get you $2,000. We're going to do a Zoom thing. I'm not going to take any money for it. You are. Let's do this. And I have no doubt. I am like a wizard at raising money. But the funny thing is when it comes to myself, that's where I'm like, okay, look at my scarcity mindset. But like anyone else, like someone's like, we need help with this. I'm like, I'm on it. You just watch. And they're like, Jen, we went above and beyond. But, I'm very transparent. I tell the truth. I use my humor, authenticity, and I don't sugarcoat anything. And it seems to work.
Yeah. Okay. So what you brought up is really interesting. So about when you transition to yourself. Because I remember seeing one of your first posts after you were fundraising where you were like, okay, you guys, I've been raising all this money, but now I need to focus on my business a little bit. And like, what did that feel like? And how I remember I don't remember exactly what you said, but I remember seeing something in what you said where I was like, wow, does she feel nervous about this? Like, of course we should be supporting her. She has just fundraised so much money for all these other people.
I don't know. I mean, there's so much right now also that I'm processing with about scarcity mentality and the way I was raised, having lost my dad at 8 years old and watching my mom hustle and be in survival mode our whole life. And when all my income went, when it was like, the 3 retreats I had in Europe and the $10,000 speaking gigs and everything. And I was like, wah, wah. And I'm the breadwinner. And it was like, thank God I live in this tiny apartment and I've lived it, here for almost 20 years and it's rent control and we all share a bed and but I just, I was in a real scared place and it wasn't completely altruistic. I love being of service and I loved what I did. And also it was a distraction, right? It was like, I'm really good at this and I'm going to keep doing this for everyone else. And and then eventually I was like, okay, now I really got to figure out what's good. Cause I don't know when and if in-person things will ever come back. And, it's funny, the confidence I have around getting money for other people is like, you can't touch it. Like I literally am like, I am the queen of it. And then, but for myself, I'm like, and I'm working on it. Hey, look, you know what? I just bought a house. Everything shifted. Thank you. Within a year, like if you look at 1 year ago, this week, even, it's like, it's unbelievable, the shifts. And I'd say one of the most beautiful lessons in that is to remember that it's not what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you think you know for sure that just ain't so. And that's not my quote. I think it might be Mark Twain, but it's like letting go of what you think you know for sure. And for me, it was like, oh, it's over. I had a good run. Well,
Yeah.
and COVID was the quote unquote worst thing that happened to me. Now, it was awful. Obviously, COVID was awful, but for my career personally, but then it ended up being the best because
Mm.
I reinvented and I think just being able to marry my skills and chutzpah and all the stuff for fundraising and bringing that to my own life, because
Mhm.
what I think it is a worthiness thing. The truth is, it's like,
Mm.
I don't get to have that. No, I could do it for everyone else, but I don't get to have that.
Mm.
And that's bullshit.
Mm. Oh my God. Yes. Just like, yes. I mean, I think what we're talking about here too, what I love about everything that you talk about is like that it's like both, it's like everything is like
Exactly.
both, it's like, yes, sometimes I feel scarcity, sometimes I feel abundance. When I'm feeling scarcity, I'm going to work on it, I'm going to go there, I'm going to look at why that's showing up. Sometimes I'm not even going to be able to do that and somebody else is going to have to call me out on it, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
that's okay too, because it's like the scarcity mindset, which is like, that's another area where I'm also doing a lot of like work. I've been reading like science research papers, don't even ask me, about what scarcity mindset does to decision making. Like when we're in a scarce place, like how does that impact how we make decisions? But for me, it's like scarcity mindset is always black and white, right? It's like the opposite of that quote you just said, right? It's like scarcity mindset is always like, it's not possible, right? And abundance mindset, I think people think about that as like abundance mindset, like, okay, well, if I feel scarcity, how am I ever going to feel abundance mindset? But to me, abundance mindset is a spectrum. It's the gray, right? It's just like, oh, there might be possibility here. And then there is possibility here. And then what about this? It's just the opening.
Exactly.
Which I think is so, the way you talk about it, like, and we're just talking about, it's like, yeah, like everyone can access that, even if it's for a moment, even if you do it focusing on someone else to just get you there, just to pull you out of scarcity, and then just stay there for a second and ask, like, what might be possible for you? What might be possible
for you.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is too, it's always so wild for me when I realize this is like, I'm around a lot of poverty. I have a lot of people I work with, and just it's I have a whole spectrum of socioeconomic folks in my orbit. It's amazing me how much money there is, though. Like there's just a ton of money, and I like to remember that a lot, especially when it's like, how are we going to get this? And so yeah, there's a ton of people that are hurting and need, and there's so many people with just so much money they don't even know what to do with it. We have to just keep remembering that.
Yeah. That there's so much out there.
There's just so much. I mean, look, there are people, it's mind blowing. There's people that like, I don't know. It's incredible. So there's just a ton of money out there, and it's energy, and we have to allow it. And I think there is a lot to be said for a lot of times the reason people don't donate or help or whatever is simply because they don't know about it or they don't know how. So many times, I cannot tell you, almost every day, people thank me. Thank you for this opportunity to help. Thank you for this opportunity to donate, because they just didn't know. So there's that. And then there's just the messaging and how, I'm not saying that you have to be clever and all these things, but there is something like, if you're able, for example, these canvassers and stuff, it's hard. And most people don't stop and talk to them. But if somehow you're able to get people to listen to you and you're just yourself and you tell the truth, it's a lot easier to connect and get them to support.
Yeah. Okay. So, there was something you just said that I was like, that.
About them saying thank you, probably.
Yes. People are going to think I fed this to you, because my like mantra is like that great fundraising is not an ask, it's an offer, right? It's about partnership and opportunity.
I only know that because I lived it and I watched it. It's just like so many people I know. People have a ton of money and they're like, I didn't never know how to thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's an offer.
Yeah. It's an offer. It's an invitation. It doesn't have to be this sort of like gross, uncomfortable, guilt-ridden, like what you were like hounding them, like, where are you? Like you should, right? It's like, how do you show up? How do you give people an opportunity? How do you have the energy that people want to connect with. Because that's the other thing, you use the word energy, and that is like my kind of like underlying framework for everything. It's like, look, and not in some like woo-woo way that people can't connect with. We all give off energy all the time. And when you are feeling that scarcity, when you are feeling black and white thinking, when you are feeling guilty about asking for money, the donor can feel it. Everyone can feel it. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. But if you're like, I have this really cool thing, and if you want to be a part of it, like, I'd love to invite you to be a part of it. That's so different, you know? And so, yeah, I'm thinking about that even for like the sort of like canvassers. And, you know, there was like my favorite canvasser. I went to University of Michigan, would be in like our diag, and he would literally start.
Wait, what is that? What?
Oh, like our like
NYU.
Like our central campus area.
Okay.
You know, where people would be like flyering and like doing stuff. And his like intro was like, "Hey, I have this thing. Could you throw it away for me?" And it was like,
see, that's funny. That's
clever. Funny. And I was like, what is this thing? Who is this person?
That's amazing, actually. That's funny.
Right? Just like connecting with something like real.
But again, he's using humor, right?
Yeah.
And that's just like,
yeah. But
that's for me, and that's one of my values, I guess. Like, I'm like, is that a core value? But look, for me, that's always going to get me.
Yes. And that it's like funny because it's like true, right? That like everybody else is like grabbing these things and throwing them away. And he's like playing on it in this like really like, we're all human. We all know that this is what's happening. So like, let's like make a joke of it, which I think goes back to that like authenticity and like truth telling. Yeah. So like, if someone's like, all right, like I hear you guys, I like want to be in that space and in that energy and like showing up that way, but I really am feeling overwhelmed with the shame around, because money triggers so much shame for reasons that we, you know, don't, but like, where do you suggest people even like start?
Are you talking about specifically about people who want to fundraise, or just humans in general?
Yeah, just in general. Like if you can sort of see the North Star with like who you want to be and how you want to show up, but shame is holding you back from like becoming that person. Where do you start?
Yeah. You know, I mean, I think it's really important to get to the root of it. I do, but I don't think that's everything, because, and the reason I don't think that's everything is my lived experience. So I've been really self-aware, even as an 8-year-old in therapy. They're like, you're just, wow. You know, when I was like dying of anorexia, I knew I was anorexic. I wasn't in denial. So, okay. And I also, you know, really did understand it was the grief, and yet and still I was still doing it. So the why isn't always enough, right? It's the words I end my book with. It's the now what. So, you know, one of the ways is really staying connected to your body and your body intelligence, and really listening to your body, even if you're naming it, like, okay, my heart's beating really fast right now, I'm getting hot. You start to name the things, and then you have a toolkit. So maybe it's like you drop into breathing in a specific way, 3 deep breaths, maybe. I start the day with what I call a body prayer, which is generated from my own body, like writing from a point of view of a body part, and then starting this prayer with, may I remember. And the first line for me is, may I remember to breathe. And I do it every single morning. And the idea is like, before the world comes at me, before email, before Instagram, before, you know, anything except coffee, I go, this is how I want to feel. This is, you know, what I want to remember today. This is what I want to allow. And I do my best to stay congruent with that. The shame can be so debilitating, and often we don't even notice that or know that it's there, you know? So I think being really, really intentional, like, how do I want to feel today? All right, I want to feel today calmly confident. Let's just say that. Shame doesn't really allow for that. And then to look and get really honest at, like, how is shame stopping me? Where is it stopping me? Baby steps, baby now what? But finding practices, you know, the prayer, coming back to your breathing, getting out of your head and into your body, whatever that means. Maybe it's going on a walk, maybe it's whatever it means for you, stepping outside, taking your shoes off, stepping in the grass or the sand, speaking it. You know, I mean, I think there's a lot of tools and it's a day by day practice. I will die on that hill. It's day by day, day by day.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. I feel like there are days where I don't even see it. You know, I don't see shame. I don't feel it. And then there are other days where it totally consumes me, and it depends on, you know, the trigger. And I think for me, it feels a little bit sometimes like whack-a-mole. You know, it's like, okay, I don't feel shame around fundraising anymore. I've done that work. It's possible I could still get triggered there, but I haven't in a really long time. But like shame around my body, still real fresh. You know, like I can get, and so it's interesting. I feel like the tools, and I feel like the reason why it's so important that we are talking about these things under the umbrella of fundraising, but not exclusively for it, is because nobody in my entire career in nonprofit leadership, fundraising, no one ever told me that fundraising feels shameful. I certainly felt it, but no one was talking about it. And which makes the shame so, because you're like, I'm the one
Of course,
person.
because it thrives in darkness and secrecy. And so that's why the shame loss community is so beautiful, because all these people are coming together and it's like you start to speak it and you feel, oh my God, all these people it's so boring. All these people have the same exact thing. And, you know, wow. But speaking it out loud and having someone bear witness to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then, you know, really keep digging. Like, so why? All right. I'm feeling shame, and so much of it goes back, right? If not all of it, to what will they think?
Yeah. Yeah. Which also, do you think, I feel like the answer to that question is also in black and white. Like it's like judgment in total black and white. Like we never think, what will they think? They might think that maybe I'm blah, blah, blah. It's like, they'll think I'm a bad person.
Right.
They'll think I'm this. They'll think it like completely.
That's the inner a-hole, right?
Yeah.
And one of my favorite quotes is, it's worse than you think. They're not thinking about you at all.
I love that.
I do. You got to say it all the time because it's true.
Yeah.
You know, right? Like, what are they going to They're not even thinking about us. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Another way, you know, I have exercises, I have tools, like I call it, there's something called the 1 in the 100, which is like if 100 people love you and they're down with your fundraiser and one doesn't, and one, you know, whatever, hates you and starts writing stuff about you online, who are you going to focus on? The one.
Yeah.
And so, how do we make that either not focus on the one or make that time shorter and go out into the world and keep doing what we're doing, keep fundraising, keep showing up, keep writing when we're afraid they're not going to like us? Well, I have people meditate and visualize someone who loves them, living or dead, or an entity, and connect to that feeling, and then write themselves a letter in the voice of them. And it's a reminder of who you really are. So when you have the like, oh, but they're not going to like me, but you have this sort of protection or talisman of this letter and it starts with, if you could see what I see. And it's from in the point of view of a person who loves you. And so you have that confidence, hopefully.
I'm covered in chills. And I remember reading that in your book too. But just the way you said it right now, I'm thinking about like, you know, visibility, right? Like I've talked a lot about the fact that before I started my business in a big way, I had a visibility coach because I was so afraid of being visible and what that meant, right? That it sort of like opened up the possibility for a lot of criticism. And it's true that we just attach ourselves to the one person. You know, I'll do a thing and it'll be like, you talk too fast or you talk too loud. And I'm like, oh my God. But then all these other people are super happy. And why can't I just be like, okay, well, and now I do, right? I'm like, listen, if I talk too fast or too loud or you don't like me, definitely don't take my course because the same person you see here is the same person who's inside there. But it feels so vulnerable at first, you know? And I feel like my resilience has like grown over time. But what I love about what you said about that letter is like, to have someone who you are fully yourself with, who fully sees you, say those words is like this safety net around like, you actually can be completely you. I see you as completely you. And it's safe. You are lovable.
And the greatest thing about the exercise, if I do say so myself, is that you wrote it yourself.
Yeah.
So it's what you already know. So there's a PS. PS, I wrote this with my own hand. So it's what I already know, comma, but maybe have forgotten, period.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. So how easy it is to forget. How easy it is to forget. And every single day, what do we need to do? What are the practices we need to do to come back, to remember, to get grounded so that, we're not riddled with shame, so that our inner a-hole isn't the boss of us, so that all our decisions are not made from scarcity mentality or fear, right? What do I need to do every day?
Yeah. To feel worthy.
Yeah. And doing, I don't necessarily, it doesn't even have to be a big, it could be like, what do you need? What are you thinking? Who are you spending your time with? What are you reading? How are you starting your day? It's not all big action items.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why I think you're such a powerful like presence, or thing for people to follow on Instagram and things like that, because I just think it's such a gift to like see real humans, and I say it to all my new mom friends. My daughter's turning 2 in a few months.
Aww.
And yeah. And I say to people, one of the best things I feel like I did for my like mama brain was like, I unfollowed all curated moms.
Oh yeah. Right? I have another platform called No Bullshit Motherhood, right?
Oh my God, no, but I'm going there.
That's my other Instagram. No Bullshit Motherhood. Oh yeah. That's not my jam. All that stuff. That's why. Yeah. Nah.
Yeah. Right. But it's like, that's such a good point. Like, what are the influences, right, that are making us feel, and if we're feeling like not enough in whatever way, if we're hearing like, let's do a little audit.
It's so simple, Mallory. Why do we make it so hard? Right? It's like so simple. This makes me feel terrible when I keep, okay, then stop doing it. But we're human and we're like, I'm going to torture myself and then feel bad and complain about it and do it again.
Yeah. Or we don't even think we deserve to like have this space because we're like shoulding all over ourselves. So we're like, well, I should be able to follow that person and her perfect meals that she's making for her 12-person family after work because I should be able to do that too. And it's like, says who?
Yeah, like, I don't know. I mean, so what, were you 34 when you had your baby?
Yeah.
33? Yeah. I don't know. I was 41. I am so glad for whatever reason I never got caught up in that. And maybe part of it too is because I was like, I already knew I couldn't compare. I'm like, I live in a 1-bedroom. I'm not so I was already, but I mean, with other stuff, definitely I have my demons, but with the mom stuff, for some reason, it's very liberating, I'll say.
Yeah, it has been for me too. I really haven't, knock on wood, but I've always almost made it 2 years with literally no mom shame. Like I have not felt like nothing. And I think it's because I've like gone into it having kind of already done this audit around like, what are the things that like support me? And so
did you call it an audit?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Like, what are what you were just listing, all those things, like, what are you saying to yourself? Who are you following? Who are you spending time with? Like, whenever something doesn't feel good in my life, I like do a little audit around like, okay, like this thing like keeps feeling sticky. Like, why? Like,
what sign are you?
Sagittarius.
Interesting. When's your birthday?
November 26th.
Okay.
What about you?
Sagittarius.
Oh. When's your birthday?
December 12th.
Oh,
that's funny. In some ways I could see that. And in other ways I was like, you're like a Virgo. You're very, with the black and white and the very like, even the audit, the reference to like, I was like, she's like either a Capricorn or a Virgo. I'm not even like an astrology person really. I don't know why, but I also could see the Sag stuff. I think that's a really valuable tool though, what you're talking about, this audit, actually, that's like, okay, what's working, let me double down on that, what's not, let's, if possible, stop. And it's not always possible at the moment, right? It's like, okay, my job isn't working, let's just say, well, we're not over here like, okay, go quit right now. No. I mean, get honest about it.
Totally. But even doing it and calling it the audit allows it to not be me.
The audit.
It's not about me, right? It's not like I'm this. It's like I'm surrounded by all of these things that are influencing how I feel about this, right? Because that's what helps pull me out of the black and white, like, I can't do this, or I can't, is like that. It's like, no, it's like, here are all the influences in my life. Some of it's going to be working, some of it's not going to be working, but it like, it almost like, in yoga, like one of the most amazing things that yoga has supported me around is like the cultivating the witness. And so like, I feel like I use some of these tools to like pull myself out of being the person that everything is like happening to, versus like, okay, let's observe like what's actually surrounding me right now.
Exactly. Well, and that's why I said, after my friend died and I slipped into this sort of depression in the last few weeks and scarcity mindset, and you look at the whole, right? And then you audit and you go, all right, this happened. And then I don't necessarily believe in the word balance, at least in my own life. I've never found it, but balanced-ish. And you look at like, where am I not so balanced right now? Oh, well, I'm not sleeping. I've been drinking too much. I'm having 18 cups of coffee a day. My friend just died. And there's all these things. I'm not starting the day with my morning prayer, and I'm scrolling Instagram for 17,800 hours a day. And you go, oh, well, no wonder. It's not like a random happenstance thing. It's the whole. Right. It's all these things that support us in feeling grounded and feeling like our best self and feeling powerful and feeling capable, expansive. All these things that are supporting us are not in play right now. So audit. Okay. All right. And then not shaming ourselves for it or going, I can't believe I let myself get here again.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nope.
Now what? What?
Yeah, exactly. You have choices, you have control, maybe not over everything at the same moment, but definitely around some of the things. And
that's a really good point. Where in my life am I trying to control something that I can't possibly control? And that would probably, cure like 80% of all of our misery.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And then I asked myself, I asked myself that question or some form of it. And then I'm like, okay, where do I need to surrender? Like, where am I really?
I mean, that's my word right now. Yeah. Baby. Surrender.
Yeah. And that's been my word for motherhood. People ask me like, what's your motherhood like word? Surrender. Because
I love that. My word for a long time has been ease, but I like surrender too. Let's surrender and ease.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And in terms of fundraising too, it's like really, I love the word allow. Let's add that too. Surrender, allow, ease. But it's really about trust. It's like trusting. All right, just trusting and surrender. It's going to be what it's going to be. And I trust. I allow for the flow. I trust. And that's not easy necessarily. Yeah. It can be.
Yeah. And it isn't easy. It certainly isn't easy in a scarcity mindset.
It's impossible. Like it truly.
Yeah.
Just telling you from experience, even last week, it's so hard when you're in that place to be like, yeah, I'm just going to allow it to flow, because your inner a-hole is like, you better not. You're about to be houseless. You're going to be on the street. What?
Yeah. But with certainty, you're definitely going to be on the street.
I'm going to cancel one client because I'm feeling burnout. And from that, I'm going to go to being houseless. No, right? It's like,
Yeah. No, it's so true. And it's so, God, it's just so loud when we get into it. And there's another episode with Dr. Ethan Kross that talks about chatter. And so there's a lot of alignment here, and he gives some really good tips on like,
what's his name? Ethan Kross?
Yeah. And the book is called Chatter.
Wow, maybe you should introduce us.
I would love to. Oh my gosh, I would love to. And he has he's been doing scientific research at the University of Michigan, and he has some great strategies for like how to pull yourself out of the spiral. One of them being to use, he calls it distant self-talk, and to use your name and like some sort of forward motion that like when we're really spiraling and we can't see the light and we're like deep in that black and white thinking, to be like, Mallory, you have been here before. You know what to do.
I do it all the time.
Me too. Yeah. But it's amazing to see the research around what that can do, what that does to your brain so fast. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Jennifer, I mean, I'm, we all talk to ourselves, we just need to admit it. And I talk out loud to myself without shame.
Yeah.
Jennifer, come on. Jenna, constantly.
I love that. Well, okay, I could talk to you literally all day about this.
Well, and then can you come to yoga? I've been doing yoga on Saturdays, yoga to quiet the inner asshole.
Yes.
On Zoom, but also, if people are nearby in Ahole, they could do it in my yard. We've been doing it under the oak trees, so you should come on Saturday.
I would love to. We are doing a little bit of construction that has made it so I can't do it without my 2-year-old being on top of me.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you think she's really, her downward dog is getting great.
Fine. And then my best friend, my best friend teaches kids yoga, which I'll send you the link for.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah, I mean, I always have a lot of kids there too. People are like,
oh, good. Okay. Yes. Before we forget, I want you to tell us all the ways that people can find you. And I really want, because I would love, I was going to say we should do yoga for fundraisers, but instead let's just have all the fundraisers come to yoga with me and with you. But tell us all the things.
Yeah. So, because this will probably air in August or September, my retreats are coming back. In September, I have Italy or France. So reach out to me if you're interested in coming to either of those with me, my On Being Human retreats. And I turn them virtual. So it's been so magical. The next virtual On Being Human is in October. And I have the shame loss course, and I'm on an app called Mind, Mind. It's that's where I'm going right after this. It's like a self-help app. It's amazing. It's free. And what else? I teach yoga just a little bit these days, 1 class a week, but you can find everything. Instagram's where I hang the most, Jen Pastiloff or jenniferpastiloff.com. And yeah. And when I'm a coach. I'm really busy right now, but if you want to get on the wait list, do it.
And I will put links to all of this below the episode and everything so they can find you. And then in true nonprofit fundraising fashion, I just wanted to invite you. Is there a nonprofit organization that you would love to highlight?
Yeah. So my friend Natalie Weaver, her daughter Sophia passed, was it 2 years ago now? And we don't have time to go into it right now, I don't think, or maybe we do. I give a scholarship. It happened by accident, in quotes, but not really, to a woman who's lost a child, or many women, it seems to be, that I do. And Natalie was meant to come, and the retreat was canceled in COVID. It's called the Alexander Fund. It was named after a baby Alexander who passed away. Anyway, Natalie was meant to come. I offered her the scholarship, and then COVID, and then she was going to come this September, and she can't during those dates. But her nonprofit is called Sophia's Voice. And Sophia's Voice supports children and adults with disabilities, as well as caregivers and disability rights activists. They provide financial support for medical equipment not covered by insurance, medical bills and debt, medication, appointments, respite, advocacy support, and various other medical-related expenses. They also raise awareness to normalize facial differences and profound disabilities, and work to hold social media giants accountable for protecting people with facial differences and disabilities online. Sophia had facial differences. She started Sophia's Voice in honor of her sweet Sophia, #SweetSophia, and will continue it in her memory. Even though she couldn't speak, she did have a voice, and it was a powerful one. Natalie is so proud of the impact she's had and continue to have on the world. It would make her so proud to know she was making a difference. Natalie, her mom, promised her she would continue the work that we started together. So it's sophias-voice.com. It's really remarkable. I mean, I remember following her even before Sophia passed, because she was this huge advocate. A lot of people trolls would say hateful, horrible, hateful things. And I remember following her on Twitter, and then somehow we became friends, as I do, and I offered her the scholarship, and she said yes, and that was like a year and a half ago or so, and the work she's doing is remarkable. So sophiasvoice.com.
Oh my gosh, I'll put all that information as well, and I'm so grateful for you. Just thank you.
Thank you. Let me know how I can support, and keep doing the great work you're doing. Keep putting down shame. Keep losing shame. You don't have to carry it. You don't.
Yeah. No, thank you for being a model of that and for being so open and transparent and authentic and just showing, leading by example.
I'm really proud of the work you're doing. So keep doing it. All
Thank
right.
you. Oh my gosh, that's such an honor. Yeah. Thank you. Thank
really,
you. Okay.
Really important.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was an honor. Thanks for asking me.
Well, there was way too much in this episode for me to wrap it up with a few lines, but the high-level takeaway for me is this. Scarcity does not create possibility, right? That's just the plain and simple truth. Possibility, opportunities do not live there. But the nonprofit sector is so deeply baked in scarcity mindset. The good news is, though, that we don't have to stay there. And there were a number of different tools and tips inside this episode that you can take away right now. So if you want to head over to my website, malloryerickson.com/podcast, you'll get all the detailed show notes from our episode today, as well as links to Jen's incredible work and jenniferpastiloff.com so that you can attend one of her amazing programs or maybe come to yoga with me. And if you don't want to do any of that, but you miss me between episodes, go on and head over to Instagram at @whatthefundraising_. Thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate all of my listeners, especially you, and the good, hard work you're doing to make our world a better place. Thanks for joining us today, and I can't wait to see you next week.